Hey, Miguel Iturrate back here on the CRP, and I am joined by my wrestling insider, Snake Eyes, to talk about the WWE's Raw and SmackDown events. Obviously, Raw and SmackDown coming to us back-to-back on Mondays and Tuesdays. That's the WWE's 1-2 punch. Wednesday gives us NXT, but we're going to break down the big show, so to speak, Raw and SmackDown. Snake Eyes, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing today?
Good. Got my fill with WWE. I don't think I need any more, although I will watch NXT now as homework. But let's start off with Raw on Monday night. A couple of notable things. In my book, they've sort of, I don't know if the King of the Ring, they announced it, and it's kind of like a flash from the past. The guys who won the King of the Ring in the past have been, a who's who list. But, I don't know if getting, a couple of minutes on every one of these shows and not, dedicating an entire show to it has been, doing it justice. But we had a couple of King of the Ring matches on Raw. Why don't we start with what you saw there?
Sure. The first actually opening match of Monday Night Raw was a King of the Ring round 1 match between Ricochet and Drew McIntyre. Honestly, that was a superb opening match. Ricochet, I loved him when he was on the indie scene. They kind of derailed his push a little bit early on when he debuted, but I think now they're starting to get back on track, and he actually went over on Drew McIntyre, who's been receiving quite the push the last almost year since he's been teaming with Shane McMahon and stuff like that, with a 6:30 finish. I mean, his normal finish took out Drew McIntyre, who was heavily a favorite in this King of the Ring tournament.
Yeah, it's weird. And the the WWE seems to do that. Like interrupted pushes, like you got a guy who's on a push, and then all of a sudden you're like, what happened to him? What was that? And Drew McIntyre, I'm a fan, because I remember, if I remember correctly, this is my context for Drew McIntyre, but I remember, at first they had him like playing guitar with what's the redhead it was like guys that never won. It was like Drew McIntyre. I forget what the kid's name is. He looks like Axl Rose from what I'm talking about.
I do, but the only Drew McIntyre, the earliest I remember is when he was the chosen one. He was Vince's chosen boy, and that was early days of SmackDown, I believe, too.
Right. Hold on. I'm gonna look it up because I don't want to be wrong. Didn't they do like a rock band, like a 3-man band? It was like Drew McIntyre.
Hornswoggle was in it for a while, and so was he's got kids. Heath Slater.
Yeah, Heath Slater. That's the guy whose name was escaping. And Jinder Mahal. So now, at this point, that really has to come in as a low moment for Drew. You know what I mean? So, and that's when I remember is he went through that rut in the WWE and then left. And then he popped up on Impact Wrestling. And that's where he kind of had this more dark character that he has now, where he's like, and he was like, he hit Impact with the message you get from a lot of people who leave WWE which was, wrestling first. And that was, he put in the work, so to speak, since then. And then he came back. He was sort of unstoppable. But when he got put in with Shane McMahon, you just get that sinking feeling. Everybody's playing second fiddle to Shane when they run it, when that's the pecking order. And it just is sad. It's sad. Anyway, but you're a Ricochet fan. See, I don't know much about Ricochet.
I have a 4 Blu-ray disc set of Ricochet's indie matches. So to say I'm a fan is saying very mildly.
Okay, cool. And that's cool. So he's getting his push, and McIntyre should be a big. I saw something where I had the brackets and who he might be facing in the next round. So I'll see if I can look that up.
It would be Samoa Joe versus Ricochet this Monday in the King of the Ring.
Okay, now that Samoa Joe advanced last week, if I'm not mistaken, and he took out Cesaro. who, Cesaro's a guy I would have liked to have seen him not participate in this tournament if that's what they were going to do with him, because he's a guy who, in the right set of circumstances, you could see him as king of the ring, and he could run a tournament, and he's got the chops and the rep that, people would get behind it. But they wiped him out, and I mean, Joe's in the midst of a good run too. So was there any more king of the ring action on Raw?
Yeah, we had The Miz versus Baron Corbin. And,
okay, now here we're breaking down into WWE shenanigans. What was your take on this?
Well, let me just put this thought in your head. Just close your eyes real quick.
Okay.
King Corbin. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just threw up my mouth just a little bit on that one. But it would probably get almost the same amount of heel heat as a Shane McMahon Best in the World gimmick. I mean,
yeah. I mean, but at this point, Corbin's managed to get himself into that role where he's going to have to be a heel. He's going to have to be the hated guy but he's, like I think, we were talking off camera, setting the show up and stuff too, but it's like they're a long way away from the NXT Baron Corbin that came up, where he was the lone wolf kind of thing, and, a big guy in the tradition of like a la Blackjack Mulligan or something like that. And, I like that idea of him playing loner. Now, putting him into the mix of things, he wasn't the right personality to do that with, I don't think. So I don't like it. And here, describe the match to us. What happened in the ring with The Miz? Because The Miz, The Miz, I think, is close to Dolph Ziggler level in terms of working and taking a bump and stuff, but you never know what the hell they're going to do with his character.
Yeah, I'm a big Miz fan. I've been a fan of his since his main event match at Mania with John Cena, where he got knocked for a loop and still finished the match. Like, the kid's literally gone from nothing to one of, a long stay in WWE. He's never been really hurt that much. He does work a very WWE style, but that's longevity. You don't have to work that crazy hardcore independent style when you're in WWE if you want to stay there for a long time. And the guy's made a lot of money. But the match itself felt really rushed. Corbin's just sloppy in the ring. I'm just not a fan. He bores me. He extremely boring.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, and I think that the personality change didn't help him because that person, I don't know. I haven't liked him. I preferred him as the strong silent type. Now, one of the other big features, and this one was one that WWE's been getting a little bit of a positive review on. It's Sasha Banks has been back on camera now. Now she's grabbed the mic and talked again, and we can consider her maybe back in the rotation officially here. What did Sasha have to say, and what did you feel about Sasha's return?
I am a big Sasha Banks fan. Definitely not a fan of the blue hair on her, though. I mean, they could have kept the same color, just have her style it differently or whatever the case. But they showed a promo for Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks' match coming up. She kind of just stands there, and then she stands there, and then explains why she left, and that all the rumors were true of why she left, and crying at the backstage at Mania while Becky was main eventing with Ronda Rousey, and eventually they brought up the Natty situation and why she attacked Natty on her dad's 1-year anniversary, which RIP Jim Neidhart. I had a really good, not to go off on a tangent here, but I had a really good time with Jim Neidhart at a training class one time, and I actually got to spar with him for a few minutes, and it's still one of the top 3 moments in my wrestling career. So RIP Jim Neidhart. Anyway, Natty comes out, they attack, and they brawl, and they separate, and they brawl, and they separate some more. And then we go to the first commercial break of Raw. So, I mean, it was a solid promo. Sasha's lisp, that gets to me. I can't get past the lisp. She's got too big of a tongue for her little mouth, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I can't take her seriously. I can't take somebody with a lisp seriously as a heel.
Okay, and I understand that now. I mean, I'm a fan of her. I think she works at a high level here, and was one of the girls that was responsible for. I mean, you got to remember the in the ring, Miss McMahon or Mrs. McMahon, whatever you want to call her, Mrs. Triple H, announcing that they were going to be pushing the women's divisions, and that the divas were coming, and the rise of Charlotte Flair, and right along with the rise of Charlotte Flair, you have to have that heel. Sasha played that role. She was at the top of the game there for a little bit, so I think it's good to have her back. I think it helps the roster. To be quite honest, I'm not a Bayley fan. Nothing. I know that the crowd appeal has to be given a lot of credit and stuff like that, and that she does a good job. And as we've talked about on other podcasts, she appeals probably to a slightly different audience too. You know what I mean? It's like a younger audience and maybe young, women and stuff like that, which is what you would expect. So that's her gimmick, but in the ring, she's just so unconvincing. I think that her finisher, the Bailey to belly, is an average mid-ring move. You know what I mean? Mid-match move. In my book and stuff. Even on the ladies' side, I've seen it off the top rope. Maybe it's more convincing there, but sometimes that flatness carries across all her matches, and that's been happening recently on her TV appearances. I think that she has been coming up flat a little bit, and I think that that the title scene could use a taste of blue-haired Sasha Banks. I don't care for Bayley and that whole storyline there.
I am Bayley when she was in NXT, and then I was really excited when she came to the main roster. But it seems like the last maybe 2 years, she's just been kind of floundering through and just kind of getting shuffled in the mix, to be honest. And yeah, maybe they just, I don't want to say turn Bayley heel, because then you're going to lose out on a lot of marketing and probably merchandise sales for the young girls that come with their parents to a WWE show. So I see where the appeal is there, but I mean, she needs some sort of remix or something here to really change her up too.
Yeah, I mean, changing her to heel, that's what pro wrestling does, right? That's one of the options there. But I think you're right. I think with her character, that's a long fall, and almost like it wouldn't be like something you could recover and then turn her back either. You know what I mean? So, or it would be difficult with their creative. I don't give them credit for doing it, So, but maybe a good heel opponent, maybe somebody, to get her, away from hugs and smiles and get her more serious about competition at times. I don't know. But, yeah, Bayley to me is falling flat there. Now, the other was Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman's tag team featured on the Raw segment as well. What went on there?
Segment that I caught was them talking backstage with each other, and Braun challenged Seth as a friend for the title at the next pay-per-view, and he said yes. So they're gonna defend their tag titles and then later on fight each other. That's so creative WWE booking right there, 101.
Well, I mean, let's talk about what options that does give you on the day of the show. You know what I mean? It's like, what is Braun Strowman? Is Strowman a heel or a babyface at this point? Because almost the same could be said for Seth. Because it's like I'm not quite sure which way the character goes. Seth sometimes, his promos are unappealing. Sometimes, he just doesn't come across as the babyface that they may want or whatever. What's the status there? How do you see all
that? If anything, Seth has to be the babyface. I mean, he's the Beast Slayer and the King Slayer and the Manslayer, I guess, outside of WWE. But Braun had so much steam, and then he got hurt, and it to me it derailed him big time. And then they had the thing with Braun and Roman Reigns, which caught my attention again with Braun, and then they just tag teamed him with 9-year-old to win the tag titles at Mania, and then he floundered again. So I'm officially done putting my thoughts and hopes behind Braun Strowman, because even when they do pull the trigger, they're gonna mess it up somehow.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable. Like, I mean, if you look back at the history, which sometimes is a good way to get a clue as to the storylines. You've got Andre the Giant there. that really never held the WWE belt or anything like that. He was like, you know, beyond the champion kind of thing. And I'm all right if they were going to continue to present Strowman that way. It is delicate to go down that path because Strowman isn't quite Andre, you know what I mean? Especially now with like a lot of the other guys bigger and stuff, like he's not quite different, you know? But I'm all right with that presentation and stuff. But then they start doing campy stuff like, you know, teaming him with a 9-year-old, and you kind of don't know where to go. He's amazingly popular as well. So, you know, this is a scenario where, how do you see, like, are we just going to get a straight match between him and, you know, Rollins? Is there the potential for there to be some heat coming off of the tag team match? Could they you know, what could happen here is they should lose their tag team titles. They should be mad at each other going into their fight, and then anything goes, you know, then somebody be creative and give me something I haven't seen, you know what I mean? So we'll see if they gaff that up. How do you see, what would be your preferred path for this?
If I had to put my WWE creative thinking cap on, I can see Braun walking out midway through the match. That way the champion Rollins has to take most of the beating. That way he's already at a disadvantage going into his title defense. Braun would technically, I mean, be pretty good as a heel then because, you know, the champion who's pretty popular with the fan base. That's my WWE thinking cap creative wise. Otherwise, it'd be actually kind of nice if they just lost the belts and then just started piss pounding each other and had to be separated for the match, and then have a stipulation added after the fact. So make it a no DQ, balls count anywhere, whatever the case might be. Just add a little something to it other than just, well, we booked this because you challenged me and I accepted.
Yeah. Now, could you see a scenario where, like as you said, Rollins goes into the tag match, you know, takes a beating for a good portion of it, and then you get the traditional, you know, gets the tag and Strowman, you know, jumps off the ring apron or avoids the tag, or, you know, whichever, turns his back, you know. They've done it a couple of different ways over the years, you know. But this is a ripe scenario for that, and that would add some heat to the match. The problem to me though is, you know, Strowman, if Strowman's going to be the heel and the surprise, then they really, I don't know if it's a problem, but I think if they do it right, Strowman's got to wind up with the belt there. For at least a bit, a short run, you know?
Something. He's got to get something. Something's got to come out of it.
Okay, let's go. What else is going on with the WWE's Raw event? Obviously, there was some tag team action in there. And, you know, why don't you describe to me the overall tag team scene here? Because I know that you mentioned some disparities offline here. Why don't you outline them for the fans here?
All right. Well, for covering Raw itself, turmoil match. It started out with the B team against the Raiders, War Raiders, Viking Experience, Viking Raiders, whatever they're called nowadays, since they've been called 8 different things under WWE already. They won. And then we go on to the War Raiders versus the OT, Anderson Gallows, which turned to a double DQ. So now you're in a tag team turmoil match with no team, so let's get to it. So we have Lucha House Party coming in next to go against Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode. After that, we have Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode against the Revival. Again, Dolph and Roode go over. So now we have Roode and Dolph against Hawkins and Ryder. Again, they go over. And they won the tag team turmoil match for being 2 random guys paired together to be a tag. So
yeah, that, you know, what does that say for the other tag teams that they've had on the roster? Go ahead and finish off what your thought there.
Well, I mean, the tag team champions are 2 random guys as well. So if you really think about it, guys like the OC, Revival, Lucha House Party, Street Profits, B Team, War Raiders, AOP, Ascension, Heavy Machinery, what's the point of being a tag team if they're just going to push 2 single guys to be the tag champions or be the number one contenders for the tag team champions as well.
Yeah, and I think you hit earlier on in this podcast. You hit one of the bad signs for tag team wrestling on the head, and that's when you brought up Strowman's run with a 9-year-old as his tag team partner. That really is just demeaning, I think, to the Usos. If I'm the Usos and I'm like the decorated champions of the era and this and that, and they do that, I feel like they just, took one of the bottom stones out of my legacy, my foundation stuff. Like that. I mean, they're really cheapening stuff. And again, I think, Ziggler, Ziggler's a guy who's got his ups and downs and stuff. But Ziggler may be at one of his lowest moments right now, coming off of the whole, ridiculous run that he's had there where, basically the last time we saw him, he's laying in the ring saying, beat me up again, So, now I get this could be making it up to Ziggler, so to speak, get him in the title picture and stuff, but it just feels rushed. It wasn't even done right by him and stuff. And Rude, they could have brought James Storm back and gotten Rude into the tag team picture and maybe done it right, but they don't seem to get those things right.
That's typical WWE right there. You just hit it right on the head.
So now that's Raw. So now at Raw, we've got two guys, and we've got the advancing of the King of the Ring tournament. We're going to get the continuation of it on SmackDown. So let's switch over to the SmackDown show, and then if we missed anything, we'll come back to it. But so SmackDown comes up, and once again, why don't you take us through the King of the Ring portion of the card here?
All right, King of the Ring qualifying matches. We had Buddy Murphy taking on Ali. I kind of got clips and pieces of this match, but from what I've seen, man, I love Ali. Buddy Murphy has been bringing it the last couple of months since being called up onto the SmackDown roster. I'm glad that he's kind of drifting away from the 205 Live Buddy Murphy. Don't get me wrong, he was still phenomenal there, but now he's actually able to showcase against guys that can actually hold up with him in the ring, so to say. But Ali got the victory, so next week on SmackDown, it will be Ali taking on Elias for the King of the Ring. Were the semifinals, quarterfinals, semifinals? So,
and who did Elias beat the week before?
I do not recall.
Okay, we'll get back to it. You continue your wrap up. Sorry.
It's all good. And the other King of the Ring qualifying match was Chad Gable against Shelton Benjamin, with the Chad Gable going over. Pretty good match, typical average SmackDown style match. So next week it will be Andrade taking on Chad Gable for the King of the Ring match.
Yeah, and Chad and his opponent this weekend, they were former tag team partners, weren't they? Is Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable?
Yep.
Now,
Shelton.
Let me ask you a question. Is Chad Gable, just to be clear, probably everybody knows it, I just want to confirm, but is he related to the legendary Iowa wrestling Gable family?
I don't know. That's never even looked into that. That's a good question.
Because I think it would definitely make an interesting connection, and it would also answer some questions about pedigree and stuff like that. Because when you consider it, Dan Gable is Olympic wrestling legend, and he was a coach at Iowa, and there's a whole pedigree of Olympic wrestling that comes with the Gable name as well. So I'm going to try to look that up here as we continue to speak. But so what is your take on these two matches here? I think you're right. I think, you mentioned it earlier. I think we're probably looking at King Corbin at this point. I don't think Chad's going to break through, although he had a nice performance here. What's your take on these two fights here?
To be honest, I really hope WWE kind of goes back to the indie days and we actually see King Ricochet, to be honest with you. That's my hope. But again, then he'll have to be Corbin in the finals to go on to face whoever on the SmackDown side. And as far as the SmackDown side, I kind of see Andrade going all the way on the SmackDown end of the King of the Ring tournament. I
Okay.
think they need to put the boosters on him. Him and Selena Vega make a awesome pairing. He's a perfect heel. He's crisp in the ring. He's fast. He's furious. I mean, he Andrade should be a way bigger star than what he is right now.
Okay. And so we're heading there. What else was on SmackDown? What other, and I've seen a couple of other, critiques of the WWE. If they really want to make the King of the Ring a big deal and part of like a long list of guys, the winner will have pedigree and stuff like that. I think they really should have dedicated more than more broadcast time to the whole tournament and the whole thing. Do you get that impression that it's been rushed a little bit?
I miss when the King of the Ring was one night, and the guy had to go through three different matches in order to become the King of the Ring, because then you got to kind of then you could really put the boosters on the strength, endurance, and every aspect of King to the WWE land. But at the same time, yes, they should be having more TV time dedicated to the King of the Ring, or they should have just did a network special and did a live special for one night with put these final eight guys on a network show on a Thursday night or whatever the case, and let them showcase what they got without the time constraints of TV.
I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head there, and it's stupid. In MMA and even in boxing, they tournaments pop up. They're cyclical. They go away because the tournaments are hard to do, but then somebody says we're going to do one anyway, and they have some legs, and the tournaments are incredibly compelling. The WWE is foolish for not using the one-day tournament format more because legitimately that's an advantage they have over the other sports is that they can control that a little more. You know what I mean? So it could really lead to compelling stories. And like you said, it's a masterful way to build a guy up all in one day. 3 wins, you could spotlight, come from behind, run another guy over, aerial moves, groundwork, whatever. You've got 3 matches to show off the total package. So yeah, I think the WWE is, they announced King of the Ring and then they've half delivered. They're counting on the reputation and the old name to bring back the buzz as opposed to really injecting full life into it. So as we continue, go ahead.
Think about this for a second. If the King of the Ring wasn't a one night tournament back in the day, would Stone Cold Steve Austin ever have gotten over without his lip being busted in the round match before with Savio Vega going into that match with Jake the Snake Roberts? I don't think so.
It's all about a point in time, and again, yeah, the compelling buildup. You've already seen the guy twice. I mean, in MMA when it works, those are the most exciting moments to build up a fighter. 3-0 in one day. That's something that is definitely notable. So yeah, a little inkling there that dropped the ball. Now, to give the WWE a little bit of credit, the Kofi Kingston Orton feud, Randy Orton, has really, really started to, I saw one review, and I don't know I don't remember which one of the reviews it was, but I don't want to take credit for it because I think it's right on. If they leave it right now, if it gets a little more personal, it's going to maybe go too far. But right now, it's just got enough heat where you're sort of convinced that the guys don't like each other and they're going after each other and stuff. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to end. So I think they've done a decent job with this feud. How do you see it? Or should they be starting to have an exit plan for it, or do we extend this sucker?
It's such a hard choice to make because it is very much on fire right now. This is probably the most compelling story right now in the WWE is Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton. I mean, having Randy Orton sit there and read text messages from Kofi's son saying, "Please stop hurting my dad" and stuff. I mean, that's amazing. That's gonna always go over. But I actually hope.
I mean, and not to interrupt you, but he used the word stupid. And stupid's kind of a PG word, but just the repetition of it, the repetition of it, the repetition of it. I mean, it's uncomfortable.
Well, you know why he does that, right? That was something that Orton had said to him during a match in like '09 or something, where Kofi tried something off the top and Orton caught him with an RKO, and he just looked at him and said, "You're stupid." So I mean, that's actually something from like 10 years ago. So I actually think it's kind of cool that they incorporate that back into this storyline, to be honest with you.
I agree. I agree. And both guys are hard. Now, let me ask you a very honest question. Randy Orton is already kind of like, in rarefied air. He's a legend, kind of, third generation, if I'm not mistaken. Is another WWE title run in the works for him? Is he going to get number 14 or 15? Once you get into I think Cena and Flair are officially sort of tied at 16 for reigns and stuff like that. I mean, to join them would be meaningful, even though Orton's right there already. But is that what they're working towards, or do you leave Orton a peck behind?
I wouldn't give it to Orton. We've seen it countless times, and every time he gets the title, he goes stale. Every single time. And I actually hopped off of the Randy Orton bandwagon a few times already during his career. I really liked his Legend Killer run. I thought that was probably his best year, in my opinion. One of my favorite WWE matches to this day is Randy Orton winning the WWE title from Chris Benoit. Like that match really showcased a young Randy Orton who matured in that one night. But yeah, I don't see a reason for Orton to have the title again unless they really want to push Kofi early next year, maybe Royal Rumble, having to go through the Royal Rumble to try to get his title opportunity back. Another feel good moment basically for Kofi.
Now, how did the Kofi thing? Like, to me, it seemed like there was not a long-term plan with WWE to make Kofi the champion. They were kind of in a rut, and he was so hot, and he'd done the work so well, and he'd come off a match where, I think he was so close that that people kind of actually started to dream and to believe that, hey, he might win the belt and stuff like that. Now he's, then when he wins it, you kind of think, all right, he'll have it for a month, and it's kind of a symbolic thing. But he's an excellent worker. That's him and Ziegler. You're talking about guys, going both ways in terms of work. So should they leave the belt with him for another 200-300 days, the way they do these things? I think that would be meaningful. At this point, if they took it away from him right now, it would sort of I don't know, push him back into the New Day and take away a lot of the heat that they built up. I'm eager to see who his next feud is after Orton.
I guess my biggest piece of excitement with Kofi being champion is he's so small that anybody on the roster could beat him. That's what WWE should be doing. They shouldn't just have a one guy story. It is fire, but at the same time, you have a whole roster of guys that are as big or bigger than him that, could beat him on any given night. And all it takes is a schoolboy on a non-title match, and then boom, you have another contender. I mean, how nice would it be to see Cesaro become the world champion, beat Kofi Kingston? I would love to see that.
Yeah, I think there definitely are a lot of guys that that are right there on the cusp that you could do a short run with. But eventually, who do you think is going to get the belt from Kofi? I know that Roman Reigns is but he's on the other brand right now, isn't he? So what's the long term here? How do you see this title picture playing out?
SmackDown really doesn't have a lot of big name stars. I mean, I think I'm hoping that was their goal, was to kind of plan it out for their roster to be like this. But I do know when SmackDown goes to Fox that they're going to have permanent rosters. There won't be the swapping of 5 people or whatever the stupid rule is for roster trading for a night. So I guess we're gonna find out pretty soon here within the next month and a half on who SmackDown's big top stars are gonna be, and then maybe Orton's going in as champion. So when they're on Fox, they get the national appeal of Kofi chasing a heel champion.
Yep. And that would be very interesting. Now, let me ask you a question here. We go, you mentioned Orton and Coffey's a hot storyline, maybe the best storyline going right now. So let's transition from the best storyline to maybe the worst storyline. What's going on with the Roman Reigns on SmackDown? He's still hunting around for like his attacker, and someone's trying to take him out. And Rowan has been pulled in there, which, I like Rowan. I mean, I enjoy Rowan, but he's a kind of a marginal name here. Daniel Bryan's been sucked into a little bit. That makes, but are they really going to do Reigns and Bryan? They're far away from the title picture at that point. Isn't that where we expect to see Roman Reigns? Where are they going with this? What is going on, and what did we see on SmackDown that continued this storyline?
Yeah, it was more of Roman Reigns chasing Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan around, asking who attacked me, who attacked me. I've totally phased out of this storyline. I mean, you had Roman Reigns, who had to go away for cancer, who came back, 2 months later? Was it 2 months, 3 months, something like that? Real soon. When they should have just held off. They should have held off for SmackDown going to Fox. And imagine how big of a superstar pop he would have got if he would have made a surprise return on the first episode of SmackDown on Fox. He would have been your biggest star. And now you have him floundering trying to figure out who attacked him in the back. WWE, faceplant. Like, right, you can't, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
you can't
mess that up.
Yeah, you can't gaff something more than that. I mean, it started off, if I remember correctly, with like the scaffolding almost falling on him and stuff. And there was like that genuine madness to the ending of that episode where people were like wondering, okay, what's this? You know what I mean? But there really hasn't been, they've dragged it out. Again, with Rowan and, Buddy Roberts, is it Buddy Roberts?
Murphy.
But Buddy Murphy, I'm sorry. Yeah, and that's a good example. I think you're absolutely right. The last month, WWE's MVP is probably Buddy Murphy. The guy's been doing great in-ring work, and him injecting himself in his storylines got him a little bit of attention and stuff like that. But that just goes, to the guy's kind of a new name on the scene. Why is he in this storyline? Rowan, we've known Rowan. Do we ever hear Rowan talk? I don't think he's a mic warrior. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's his involvement in there? Yeah, he's a big guy and stuff like that, but it's like, why is Roman playing with these marginal names? So unless there's a huge surprise and some something crazy going on, with who Reigns' eventual opponent is going to be, this just makes no sense, and they continue to drag it on. So what did we see? Did he actually get his hands on Daniel Bryan on this SmackDown episode?
Yeah, they brawled for a little bit, and then typical WWE got pulled apart. So still searching for the attacker.
Okay. Now, what else went on here with the SmackDown side? I see. Was the Miz on there as well? Did the Miz wind up? What's going on with the Miz? I see the Miz is set up to feud with Nakamura, and Nakamura now has Sami Zayn as a manager. What's going on here?
Putting people on TV just to get their face on TV. I mean, another cold case for WWE, prime example. Nakamura, hottest thing coming out of NXT, hottest thing going into Mania. World title on the line, the crowd singing, he's got the crazy entrance, he's dancing, and he lost and then turned heel. And then done. I mean, nobody, and then they changed his theme music even, so you couldn't even sing along with it to have fun with it anymore, to keep him relevant. I mean, another case of WWE spending big money for a big star and then floundering to deliver.
Yeah, and with Nakamura, you can see that idea of getting him a mouthpiece. You know what I mean? Somebody to speak for him and stuff, because it would just be a different fold. You know, with his Japanese and stuff, he's always going to be limited, you know, on the microphones. But why not Paul? You know, I mean, why not Paul Heyman? Why not, you know, one of the guys, you know, why recycle a Sami Zayn? I guess, like you said, maybe they promised him some time on the air, and this is their way to do it. Even though, you know, why not just put him in matches? What's going on with these guys?
Well, and you know, one of my favorite Nakamura matches is him and Sami Zayn from NXT Takeover. That's still to this day one of the best NXT matches of all time, in my opinion. But Sami Zayn's an amazing in-ring worker too, and he's just another guy. They're just chopping off at the bits, and just he's a floater, in my opinion. He's just floating by. I mean, just here, go do this week. Go be with Kevin Owens for a month. Come back and be Nakamura's manager. Like, what?
And the other thing that's kind of part of this is it's kind of, I don't know if they're trying to be funny or if they think, you know, comedy's like one way to go with that stuff and things like that. But it's like, I'd be much more happy with them, you know, simulating competition and being like a little more, you know, a little more serious with the stuff, you know? I know, you know, it's weird to be like an AEW fan because they're very campy still and stuff like that, but there are different points in the spectrum here, you know what I mean? It's like the WWE, they can do, but with its constant appearance, it just seems silly, and they're really wasting Sami Zayn. They're really, really wasting it.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
So overall, let's go ahead and give them a grade now. As we stated, you know, the WWE is in a little bit of a skirmish or a war here with AEW. AEW has perhaps their biggest weekend to date on the books for this weekend as they go into their all-out pay-per-view in Chicago. Did you see any digs at that or any subtle hints, or, you know, because it's not like they delivered a A+ product on both shows, like to get people's attention away from the AEW. It looks like they just kind of went business as usual. Overall, give them a grade and comment on that, and then maybe we'll close the show out with what you think we might see on NXT and whether WWE may deliver that in a slightly different fashion. And now that they're, you know, targeting AEW. Go ahead, shoot.
Well, as far as Raw, I'm gonna give that probably about a C+, maybe a B- to be nice. That Ricochet Drew McIntyre match was really good. But speaking of really good matches, the first hour and a half of Monday Night Raw only featured 20 minutes of wrestling. So in the first 90 minutes, you only had 20 minutes of wrestling, which is why I'm giving it a lower grade, because I don't need 20 minutes with Sasha Banks in the ring talking. I don't need that in my life. That's something I'll never get back. As far as SmackDown, again, it's more of a simplified show. They're more of the wrestling show. So I'm going to give that one about a B. I thought the Gable Benjamin match was pretty good. Buddy Murphy and Ali was another good match. Orton and Big E was good with the assisted RKO from the Revival helping him. I thought that was awesome. So I'm actually kind of looking forward next week for the ring matches for Raw and SmackDown.
Cool. And as I promised, just a quick follow-up. I did a little bit of internet Wikipedia research, and Chad Gable, his real name is Chad Betts, and he's wrestling under the assumed name of Chad Gable. I assume he chose the name Gable because of the legendary wrestling pop. But as far as the immediate check is, he's not a family member, so he's sort of getting the rub for the name, but is not an official member of the Dan Gable family. So no sweat either way. He's an excellent in-ring performer, and he does bring wrestling to the table. So I think it's a good fit there, but I want to follow up with that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this one. Here on the CRP, I've been joined by Snake Eyes to talk about the WWE's Raw and SmackDown products for this week. Just a quick review of their weekly shows and see where the storylines are heading. And we'll be back later this week with more on the AEW's pay-per-view and any other news that comes up here in the world of pro wrestling. Snake Eyes, any final words, any final plugs?
I need to do laundry so I can start packing for All Out.
Okay, yeah, it's just only a couple of days away, and Snake Eyes is going to be in the building for All Out. Now, we got. I've been making notes here, and we're gonna make this guy Snake Eyes here. We're gonna make him be true to his word. So, if Joey Janela does not win, I expect him in the ring. And I think you made another couple of little promises there about what we wanted to see there. I'm obviously just goofing around there, but it'll be great to see if we could get some reports from you from the show too. And I'm with you, man. I'm on the Joey Janela bandwagon for that. I'm Miguel Iturrate for the CRP. This is our wrap-up of the WWE's TV product, Raw and SmackDown for this week. And we will be back. Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks to Snake Eyes for all the insight and help.
Always.